Good afternoon and welcome to CanadianAgMarkets.com. My name is Brian Como, and today is the 16th of May. All right, we've had a pretty fun week here. Let's get through the markets today. We are up a little bit of a rebound in canola today, $8.30 of gains from yesterday at settling at 702.70. Minneapolis wheat is down 5.75 at 573.25. Kansas wheat is down 11.25 or 11.75 at 516.5. Chicago wheat down 7.75 at 525. Soybeans down 1.25 at 1050. Corn down a nickel at 443.50. And the Canadian dollar is down a little bit at 71.47. We did see a little bit of a rebound in live cattle today, and both cattle markets. Live cattle are up 105 to 206.75. Feeder cattle are up 177 to 297.60. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit here about crop conditions and seeding progress and all of that fun stuff. So let's get into what's happening here. Limited precipitation over the past week in Saskatchewan has allowed. So this is seeding progress from the Saskatchewan crop report. Maybe I should preface by saying that this data over the next couple of slides here is from provincial crop reports. This is the Saskatchewan one. So let's start this over. So limited precipitation over the past week has allowed producers to make some substantial seeding progress. Seeding is currently 49% complete. That is across the province, which is up 31% from last week. So a really good week of seeding. This we're significantly ahead of the 5-year average of 32%. So we're about a week ahead of schedule here, and the 10-year average, which would be 34%. So good planting progress overall. Most of which is coming in from the southwest part of the province, where there's been less rains, but overall pretty good progress. Here is the kind of the regional and commodity breakdown. So spring wheat, durum wheat are the two commodities that have the largest, other than some of the special crops like triticale and mustard, etc. Chickpeas are good as well. Canola is still about 29% seeded provincial wide, but the Southwest, as stated, is at about 80%. We've got about almost half in the West Central area, so good progress overall. And generally, ahead of average or ahead of pace for most of the season so far. Manitoba is in a similar situation. This is from the Manitoba Crop Report. We are seeing 33% of the province seeded now versus a 30% from last year, and the 5-year average is 25%. So we're seeing good progress here in Manitoba as well. This is hot off the press, folks. This is the Alberta Crop Report, which was just released this afternoon, just less than an hour ago, actually. We got spring wheat in the whole province of Alberta at 65, or almost 66% planted. Barley's almost half planted. Canola is almost a quarter of the way there, or at least this is as of May 13th, so we're probably significantly ahead of that now. But this is just the reported data here. Peas are, 3/4 of the way done, and as you can see, we are normally between 25 and 29% planted at this point in the year. Major crops this year are 46% planted, so well ahead of schedule here. Here is a graphic as well that just kind of shows the progress based on region: South, Central, Northeast, Northwest, etc. So, overall, we're almost halfway there overall as a province, and well above averages for Alberta as well. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the U.S. Just spring wheat planting progress here. Here's the major states for spring wheat. 58% planted in South Dakota. We got 61% of the wheat planted in Montana. Almost all of it in South Dakota. A significant amount in Minnesota, and then these two states are actually pretty big spring wheat growing areas as well. Washington and Idaho, 93 in Washington, 97 in Idaho. So national progress, 66% of spring wheat is planted in the U.S. as well. All right, I got a text last night from a friend who said, "Hey, You never talk about barley in your videos. So here we go, Mr. Gerard. I'm going to talk about barley today. We saw barley ease up a little bit. We've seen barley creep up higher to the, this is feed barley, by the way, to the highest level in the last year, now trading above $250 a ton as a posted bid. We've heard some really good prices as well for malt and feed in the eastern part of Alberta. So yeah, we have barley prices on the rise. I think one of the reasons, and this just to kind of preface this, the last 4 years of data is Statistics Canada ending stocks. The 2024-25 is my own assessment of where ending stocks is going to end up. I have that at 882,000 tons, which is pretty significantly tighter than last year. Overall, I have exports coming down a little bit. I have feed coming down a little bit. And that's mostly just to make the balance sheet kind of balance a little bit balanced because we have a little bit less supply overall from last year as well. It might correct itself a little bit as we move towards the next crop year. Now, seeded acres are called to go down by Statistics Canada by almost 200,000 acres. But when you kind of add in some trendline yields and put some yield back in, we're looking at a production of about 10 million tons overall. So it could get a little bit looser, but that also opens up the opportunity for more demand if we get some more production in the pipeline. So overall, prices are rising. They're coming off of some pretty big lows recently as well. So it's not like we're making lifetime new highs or anything on these things, but overall a positive movement in barley in the last little while. And I think it is getting some farmers interested in selling for some, hedging some new crop. So that's always a good sign when we get prices into an area that look profitable and that can be executed on with some confidence. So good to see there. All right, we're going to get into some charting here. Here is July canola. Yesterday, of course, we took a beating as the oil seed complex and the vegetable oil complex took a hit on some EPA. Some of them were rumors, some of them were facts. Delays in instituting some of the mandates, but also reductions in the blending amounts as well. So here we have canola. It still looks a little precarious to me. We did see it kind of trade up almost to like the 718 level in July, and then it kind of back down. It did close above the 20-day average, but yesterday we did break below that level, and we traded below that level for a significant amount of time today. Most of the candle exists below the 20-day moving average, so there's still some risk in here that this market is going to correct. But it looks like we're still holding on to that pattern where canola sees 2 days of downside and then it continues to go back up. So which pattern do you want to believe? I guess we'll see which one is right. But right now it looks a little precarious, hovering around this 20-day moving average, having broke it earlier in the day or earlier in the week. November canola was a little bit better as far as technical standpoint goes. Yesterday's move kind of came down, tested close to the 20-day moving average and the trend line that's been in place since the end of March. And, we saw that same kind of up candle today. Only one down candle here in this November chart, which was yesterday when the carnage in the vegetable oil complex took place. So overall, this chart still looks quite friendly, actually. And yeah, there's just a bit of a dichotomy happening between July and November. We do know that there still is some demand coming in, particularly in the crush for June and July. So old crop seed still needed for that. So there's still some demand out there for that. Again, crush plants generally still run at 65% as a minimum as we move through the summer months. So capacity utilization, 65% capacity utilization. Or even higher, 67%, I think, is where I normally see the lows. So November canola is still behaving quite good compared to July, and July still has some fundamentals that are underpinning it as well. Wanted to talk a little bit about the managed money position. We came in at a new record long position. So this would have been the reporting at the end of Tuesday of this week. What date was that again? I don't know. It was Tuesday of this week, reported on Friday, so we got 3 days of delay here, but still that's an 86,787 contracts long as of the end of the reporting period. That is a new record and kind of does explain why there was such a sell-off yesterday when bad news came. When you have a record net long position in the market and something bad happens, you get a long liquidation that sometimes can be a bit aggressive. That still may come into play as we move into next week, depending on what happens with the vegetable oil complex. So just keep that in mind, is that there's still pretty big long position in canola out there at this time. Here's a chart of soybean oil. It tried to recover some of its losses today. You can see the upper end of the candle today kind of popping its head back over the 20-day moving average. But even though the candle here is green, it's still closed below the 20-day, still looks weak or ripe for continued correction here at this time. I think we hit a low today of 47.63. So still lots of risk in this market as well, depending on what happens next week in this vegetable oil space. I want to talk a little bit about wheat here. Minneapolis wheat kind of edged again towards lows. It didn't make a new low today, but today's close was the lowest close that we've seen in the in this contract. So we can still continue to look weak here. Okay, let's get into some headlines here today. There's a new agriculture minister minted as a result of Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet reshuffle. Heath MacDonald is the new agriculture minister, and he did state in an interview that tackling the trade issue with China and the U.S. are of his most pressing priorities. On this kind of two-front trade war with the world's largest economies, he stressed that farmers in Canada, major canola, wheat, and pork exporter, and is impacting that the trade row is impacting spring planting plans, etc. There's many that are questioning the cabinet shuffle. I think there's some that were actually quite happy with Cody Blois, who was the former agriculture minister prior to Carney making the shuffle. So he did, McDonald just kind of was sworn in on Tuesday. He did say the issues of trade are center stage, and he's kind of tackling those first. So I guess we'll wait and see if that comes to be true. Argentina's soy farmers racing ahead of harvest to beat the rains. The soy harvest has been delayed there by strong rains, which is actually impacting the Argentinian economy. Farmers face or race against forecasted storms to harvest the soybeans, and El Nino is expected to bring more rain. So this is a little bit supportive to the soybean market, and also for the crush products market, which would be bean oil, bean meal, and the likes of those things. So Argentina is the largest soybean crusher in the world. So the supply of beans getting to crushers at this time of year is relatively important. All right, that is what we have for you this week. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great long weekend. Monday is a day off, and we'll see you on Tuesday.